reset, and I got the word catapult. That I was going to catapult people over barriers and walls and things you couldn't get over. The Lord showed me He's going to put you in it's like a catapult. How many know what a catapult is? Those medieval engines where they would wind it up and shoot rocks over the wall. I saw a catapult, and I saw people being catapulted into their future, over obstacles, stuff you couldn't get over. The Lord gave me the word catapult, and we're seeing so many things happen in 2017 already, and I am so pumped up and excited. I had a chance to rest the last 2 weeks. I usually travel every week, but people tell me you need to rest, so I stayed home and rested. But then I got bored. I didn't know what to do with myself. I was so used to preaching and traveling. I was ready to get back out. So this is the first time I've been out in a few weeks. Then I'm heading to Los Angeles after this meeting. But I have not been to Albany in a number of years. I was here years ago. I don't even remember when. So when I got the call, I remembered Albany. And I've been here one time, so it's not like this is my first time here. And so Albany is still here by the grace of God, amen. And God's people are here, and I'm so honored, Pastor, for you to invite me. I really do. I always count it an honor to be invited anywhere. I don't take it lightly. And I always try to ask the pastor, how can I impart? What can I do to bless your house? I don't want to just come in, put the sermon and leave. I really love local churches. I'm a pastor. I've been pastoring for almost 30 years, and I've been preaching. This is my 38th year preaching. So I've been doing this for quite a long period of time, and I still enjoy it so much. And I love God's people. I love the church. You can't bless people you don't love. I said you can't help people you don't love. You gotta love people. Love the church. Love the saints. In spite of our problems and difficulties, I love God's people. I love being with God's people. I love being around God's people. I love worshiping with God's people. I love prophesying with God's people. I love casting demons out with God's people. I really do love it. And so thank you so much. I'll be here tonight and tomorrow evening. And then after that, one of my spiritual daughters is coming. Apostle Kimberly Daniels is coming. Just with her several weeks ago in Tallahassee. We prayed at the state capitol, and we did a reset Tallahassee there. And I had not been with her in a short period of time, but it was good to see her. So she is very, very unique, very unusual. She's one of the most unusual women of God that I know. A very, very unique, unusual anointing. And you don't want to miss her when she comes after I finish preaching. I always like to go first because I can preach everything. I hate when, don't you hate when you have somebody and they preach all the words you had? And can you leave some for me? It's like prophesying. You have a team of prophetic people, and 3 of you prophesying, and the first person takes everything, and they hand you the mic. You're like, I ain't got nothing. You took everything. You prophesied about their finances, their health, their marriage, their name, their ministry. Could you let me a little something? So I love going first, and I do, before I minister tonight, I do want to encourage you to visit the book table. I love reading. I love writing. I believe that the scribe's anointing is one of the most important and misunderstood anointings in the church. Jesus talked about scribes. Most of the time he talked about them in a bad way. But he also talked about them being disciples of the kingdom. And he also said he would send wise men, prophets, and scribes. So scribes are sent, writers, those who write, because writing has always been one of the ways that God has communicated truth and revelation to each generation. God told Habakkuk to write the vision. He told Moses to write the law. The things in the Bible were written and published. We have salvation today because of writings, and writings have always been very important And I've written over 40 books. We have about maybe 7 or 8 of them with us. But I've learned a lot through reading. Much of what I learned, I was self-taught. I did not go to a Bible seminary. I really taught myself because when I was the first person in my family saved. I didn't know, I never met a saved person until the age of 20. I got saved in the street meeting. I didn't get saved in the church. I wasn't in the church. I never seen anyone lifting their hands. Never heard anyone speak in tongues. I never heard of praise and worship. I never seen anyone fall under the power. I didn't know folk like you existed. No one in my neighborhood was saved. No one in my family was saved. I got saved in the street meeting at the age of 20. And when I came to the Lord, I didn't know one verse in the Bible. I didn't even know John 3:16. I never read the Bible. And so I began to read, and I had to teach myself a lot because there's a lot I just did not know. So I began to go to Christian bookstores and purchase books and read and study. And my pastor was a man of God that got saved in 1929. I got saved in 1978. He'd already been saved 50 years. And so he taught me about holiness, how to live right, because you know, when you got saved back there, you really got saved. People today, I don't know what they're doing in 17. So he taught me a lot about the Spirit. But I didn't go to Bible school. I learned a lot through reading books, purchasing books and reading. So I know that reading is very important. I believe that a lot of ministers, one of the mistakes they make, and I've been sharing this, I'm getting ready to do a writing conference in Orlando. At the end of April, I'm gathering 300 authors from around the country. It's already almost filled up. I'm going to impart into them the ability to write, not the ability, but stir up the gift of writing, because one of the things I think that preaches what we've not done is we have preached all these powerful revelations that God has given us. And we have writers in our church. We have people that can transcribe our messages. We have writers, we have poets. We even have screenwriters and playwrights and songwriters in our church. They can write songs about what you preach. So I encourage every pastor to develop, we have praise and worship teams, deliverance teams. I encourage every pastor to develop a writing team. Get people in your church that have a grace to write. Every time you preach, let them write poems on it, let them write songs on it, let them help you write a book on it, because the revelations that we're sharing, we shouldn't just preach it and then go to the next message. Amen. That revelation can be put in a book. Amen. And it can go around the world and deliver people. And your ministry can go further than your Sunday morning service. Amen. It can go around the world. My books have gone around the world. I've had people, for instance, this book, Prophet Arise, when I wrote this book, I wrote it on Facebook. And I began to write about prophets on Facebook. I began to post on Facebook, and it went for about 3 weeks. It just flowed out of my spirit, and people began to call me and say, "Is that in a book?" I said, "No, I'm just flowing." And they said, "You need to put that in a book." So my publisher took all of my Facebook posts, put it in this book. Usually it takes about a year for a book from the beginning to the end. I began to write these in 2015, in November. And they called and said, "This message is resonating so much. We're going to take all of your posts, put it in a book." And I said, "Okay, we think it'll work." They put it in a book, and they had the book ready within weeks. And the book is called Prophet Arise, and we got it from Isaiah 60, "Arise, shine, for your light has come." And then they asked me, "What do you want your book cover to be?" And I said, I don't really know. And so I told them colors. I said, I want it to be blue because prophets speak from heaven. I want white in it because prophets represent purity. And I want black in it because black represents mysteries and secrets. And they put a shofar on it. I said, because prophets are the trumpet of God. And so they put this book out. And this book, I'm really talking about the scribes alone. This book has gone around the world. I've had people to write me, say, when I read this book, I wept. Because I thought I was crazy. I was prophetic, but I didn't understand myself. I didn't know why certain things grieved me. I didn't know why stuff made me mad and don't make other folk mad. I didn't know why I have a passion for this or a passion for that. And so, because I put it in a book, there was a message God gave me on Facebook, which is another way to write. Because I put it in a book, it was able to go around the world and touch people. So I really been I'm not going to talk about this tonight, but I've really been teaching on the scribes anointing, writers. Apostles wrote, Paul wrote, Peter wrote, Matthew wrote, Mark wrote, prophets wrote, Moses wrote, Isaiah wrote, Jeremiah wrote. They wrote. And sometimes we have these anointings and we preach and we teach, but we don't put down our revelations on paper, not only for our generation, but for generations to come. One verse in Psalm says, this shall be written for the generation to come. Then I began to talk about chronicling. I looked at the word chronicle. Chronicle means to record history. And there are two books in the Bible, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, where they chronicle Israel's history. The Lord said, many of my people, they see miracles, healings, they have testimonies, they have signs and wonders, but they never chronicle. They never write down the things I do. And he said, everything I do, the signs, wonders, and miracles, you ought to chronicle it, write it down so people can read about the miracles, the healings, the breakthroughs in the next generation. There are many ministers that live, they preach all their life and they die and they never write anything. And their ministry never outlasts their life because they don't leave a book behind or something. So this is very important to me. Books are very important. I'm getting a new understanding of the importance of it. I didn't know all this when I started writing books. I just wrote them because I felt an unction to do it. But these books are on the prophetic. This one is called Prophet Arise. This one is called Prophetic Activation. We'll be doing prophetic activations around the country. We did one in Atlanta in January. We had about 3,000 people to show up. And we've been activating people in the prophetic, taking them through prophetic exercises, training them in the prophetic. This book has 125 prophetic activations that we use in our church to activate our people in prophecy, to get them flowing in the Spirit, to get them moving in the Spirit, to raise up prophetic teams. 125 different prophetic exercises. We do about maybe 10 or 15 of them in our activations. We're getting ready to do one in Charlotte. We're getting ready to do one in Birmingham. We're getting ready to do one in Memphis, these activations, and then we've had thousands of people that either never prophesied or had a very low level of the prophetic that are now flowing because Jesus said, out of your belly shall flow rivers of living water. So those two books are available on the subject of the prophetic. And then this book is called Moving in the Apostolic. It's a book I wrote many years ago, but it's been revised and updated. It talks about the apostolic ministry, the ministry of the apostle. It gives it very clear definition because there are a lot of people that are running around with titles today. They really don't have the ministry that the title should represent. And it's really unfortunate because people don't really understand the apostolic. And so we really do need to understand. Before you put a title on your name, you should understand what the ministry is about. Amen. You should know what's required to be an apostle. That folk got 8 members and 7 on the bodyguards. That's ridiculous. You got 8 members and 7 on security. Nobody's looking for you. You got 8 folk. Amen. You don't need that much security. So it's got ridiculous. This is called Moving in the Apostolic. It's one of the foundational books on the subject of apostolic ministry. And then another area that the Lord deals with me, and really primarily 4 areas I deal with: prayer, the prophetic, the apostolic, and deliverance. I have 2 books on the subject of deliverance. I've been moving in deliverance since 1984. So about 33 years I've been operating in the ministry of deliverance. This one is called Destroying the Spirit of Rejection. Yes. Probably the most common demon we deal with in deliverance is rejection. Almost everyone suffers from it, has been rejected, some more than others. But Jesus was despised and rejected of men. He actually suffered rejection so that we can be delivered from rejection. You can never go to Christ and say, Lord, you don't know what it feels like to be rejected. Amen. He does. He was rejected by the chief priests, the scribes, the elders. His whole generation rejected him. And the reason why he went through that was so he can have compassion on you and heal you and deliver you. So this is one of the newest books I've written on deliverance, Destroying the Spirit of Rejection. And this one is called Deliverance and Spiritual Warfare Manual. It's a book I put almost everything I've learned about deliverance, demons, warfare, strongholds, different kinds of spirits. You know, there are different kinds of demons. You said this kind